That Bay Area.
What's up, Richmond, CA? There's some real stuff right here.
Add on coming down here.
It's IG, man.
Once upon a time.
Add on.
I knew how to rhyme.
Keep your at home. Me on. I me want to own. Me on type of flow.
That's all I got to say.
Me on.
All right.
Or me want to own. Me on type of flow.
Welcome back to another episode of the Add-On Podcast. Got my first guest with me today. Former basketball player, teacher for well over 20 years, rapper, producer, my dad, Ronald Williams Jr. How you feel to be on the show?
What's up, man? Glad
Yes,
to
sir.
be here, bro.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, man.
So, start off with telling us where you were born and growing up, how that was for you, stuff like that.
Growing up was really, really rough. Really rough. I was actually born in Torrance, California.
I thought it was Compton.
Well, it's kind of like living in Las Vegas and you have a baby in Henderson.
Right.
You know, my mom and dad lived in Compton, so I came back home to Compton.
Mhm.
And it was very, very violent. My mom and dad had domestic violence issues. It was a lot of violence and cussing and alcohol, and my mom getting beat up a lot and screaming and crying and all that kind of stuff. And
Right.
all I knew was a bunch of chaos.
Mm.
Then at the age of 7, we moved to Richmond, California. My mom and my brother and my sister. And then my mom and dad, after that, they divorced. But for 7 years, I didn't see my dad.
Wow.
And so you can imagine if you're 7 and you're going to school, and one day they say, "No, you ain't going to school today." All of a sudden, you go to the airport. And then you land in somebody's house that you don't know. This is your uncle. This is your cousin. This is that. Your auntie. And so it was like that. And then the person that my mom was with during those 7 years, he was a very abusive guy too.
Mm-hmm.
And there was a lot of drugs and and violence and stuff going on with him. And I believe he robbed a convenience store. He went to jail for 3 years while he was with my mom and stuff. It was just a big old mess. So I just remember a whole bunch of pain and suffering. Then when I was 14, I moved back to Compton, right in the middle of the crack thing, Easy E, all that stuff, and
Right.
Ice T, and all that stuff was going on. And in the 8th and 9th grade, I was in middle school, and I went to Compton High, played basketball.
Yes,
Had
sir.
some hops.
Crazy hop.
And then I went to University of California, Davis, and just kind of, went off to my world.
So with me, what finds me is impressive about you though, how did you manage to growing up in Compton? How did you manage to stay away from the wrong crowd and not get in any trouble and not get arrested at all? Growing up in the 80s, 70s, 80s, how did you manage that?
I thought about, maybe I'd be cool if I could get with a gang or something, you know what I'm saying? But it wasn't that I was really scared, as more as the odds weren't good to me.
Right.
And, I was looking at, okay, it's a certain amount of percentage that I'll get killed or be locked up. So that kind of, that lifestyle didn't make sense to me. And then my family was a very Christian-based family. My grandfather was a pastor, so we went to church all the time. And then I got into video and music and all that kind of stuff like that, and basketball, and that's how I stayed out for the streets.
Right. So obviously right now you're a teacher. Been a teacher for how long?
Since 1997.
Wow.
So that's 25.
Wow.
Yeah.
So
25
So
years.
was that your first passion growing up? Was it basketball? Was it something with videography? What exactly was it, your first passion?
My first passion was, I would say, it was the video when I was 15. and the VHS and recording like that.
Right.
And then I was always kind of into listening to music, but not actually making it. So in my heart, I had the music in there too. But I always catered toward, drum machines and VHS recording and stuff like that.
Makes sense. So why didn't you do you think you could have continued doing that, or are you still doing it right now? Like as far as the video, you just get back on it, or what kind of went wrong, if anything went wrong? I don't know exactly.
Yeah, well, it just depends. It depends on how you look at it.
Yeah.
I always wanted to be a cameraman.
Right.
When I was 15, I started videotaping, and everybody's like, "Well," because back in those days in Compton and Los Angeles, people didn't have the cell phones. You could just go and videotape stuff.
No.
You had to have some equipment, and you had to have some, little editing equipment and stuff, so you could make these videos and stuff. And so I wanted to do that, but then my family was very traditional. They didn't believe you could make a lot of money as a cameraman. They want you to be a doctor, lawyer, engineer, that kind of thing, And I didn't know that what you should do is look at your passion and figure out how to make money with that, because that's where your calling is. I think that's where people mess up, because that's where God will bless you.
Right.
You don't have to be a traditional path.
So obviously, too, you're a rapper, producer. When did you first start rapping, and what age do you actually start taking it seriously? I'm pretty good at this.
Okay, well, I started taking it serious when I was about 23 or 24.
Okay.
I was doing it since I was 18, just writing and stuff, but making demos and stuff, but never really if people were saying that I was good, but I didn't really say, you know what, I'm good and I can really write something and make something great. And I think I was around 23 or 24.
Wow.
Yeah.
So who influenced you? I know, but they don't know. Who influenced you? What rapper influenced you the most to start getting in? That kind of touches back on that, to get into rapping and stuff. Start rapping your own raps.
Well, I would say Rakim.
Okay.
Because of the complexity of his rhyme scheme.
The God MC.
I would say Ice Cube, because he wasn't scared to say what he wanted to say. So I say, if they can talk about gangster stuff, I can talk about positive energy and all positive stuff and be hard with it, because this is freedom of speech.
Right.
So Ice Cube taught me that. And then the DOC, KRS-One, Cool G Rap.
Legend.
Cats like that. Yeah.
Let's transition to basketball. NBA. What ultimately, the ultimate reason, go beyond just saying 6 rings. What makes Jordan the GOAT over everybody else, in your opinion?
Athletic ability. If you took the perfect basketball player and put him in a computer, it'll spit out a 6'6", 195 dude with exceptional height, can go either left or right, defend left or right, quicker than the average NBA basketball player. When he first came in, he didn't have the jump shot, but he developed that keen crunch time, extraordinary, incredible hops, dunking on people.
Yes, sir.
Rebounding, assisting, just
Jordan,
incredible. And to be able to say, look, I was watching it with the chills when it was fresh and it wasn't a video, it was incredible.
Yes, sir. Steph just won his 4th ring. This, with him winning his 4th, is that, you think he's in top 10 now? There's been debates and stuff like that, and I don't know, because if you think of it, you got, and this is not in any order, but you got Jordan, LeBron, Magic, Kareem, Shaq, Wilt, Tim, Larry, Kobe. So it's where are you gonna fit Steph in there? So you think Steph is top 10 or not?
I think it's too early to be talking like that about top 10 all time.
Steph
is and I see it a few of my friends on Facebook, you know, and people sometimes they be hating on Steph. They cannot admit that he is the greatest shooter
Without a doubt.
of all time. If you don't know, you haven't even been watching his YouTube videos. This Steph Curry 3-point highlights.
Effortless.
Incredible from the distance.
Mm-hmm.
It's one thing to make it when you just extraordinarily far from the court,
Mm-hmm.
but to do that consistently.
Yeah. And he revolutionized the game too.
Well,
3-point line.
Yeah, but you know, some of the old school cats, like I heard, like Gary Payton, don't like that stuff. You know, Gary Payton said in my day, you know, we played defense, and you know, you had all that hand checking and all that kind of stuff, and it was more physical. He said now it's more a 3-point thing, you know. But you know, I think you need both. You need the 3-point shooting, but you need some of that LeBron stuff too, though, coming down the hole in the middle. You know, you need that too.
When did Gary say that? Was Gary the same dude that said he locked up Jordan and Jordan started laughing?
Yeah.
So I don't know what he talking about. But
yeah, I mean, Gary, he did say that, but you know, he was a great player though. If you watch some little history on Gary Payton,
the glove, yeah. He's a legend. Yeah.
He was incredible, and you know, for him to say, you know, that he of course he gonna say defense because he was the glove, you know. But it's true back in the days, you know. A lot of people were better defensive players than they were offensive, and I was that kind of player too. I started off locking people down. You could not. I don't watch all the behind the back dribble between the legs, all the ball. You watch the waist, and wherever the waist go, you follow the waist, not the ball. Yeah. So I was playing defense. I was locking people up. Then my offensive game had to, you know, be coming into effect gradually, but the defense is the thing. So that's what they concentrated on back then. You know, Steph is great, but you know, it's true. You still need that penetration. I love the young cats with the hops and the drive too.
Yeah, like Ja. Yeah.
Of course.
So let's transition to NFL. Obviously, Tom coming back again at age 45. Pretty ridiculous. So, like, what's your kind of thoughts on like Tom and just how he's just kind of just obviously.
Honestly, I'm gonna be honest. I think that football has turned into almost like a reality TV thing. You know, it's just like, well, next week at 5, watch Tom Brady return. You don't need to. You've already proven that you are the greatest. What are you coming back for? Just for the potential? And let's say you go get another ring, but what does that prove? That you was really great. You wasn't great the first time. This actually proves it at 45.
You just love the game, so what?
No, you don't just love the game. That's all marketing and publicity and giving him probably like $500 million under the table that the NFL or whoever's in control is running at. Because it's unnecessary.
I mean,
it's unnecessary. You know, come on. How many Super Bowls he got?
7.
Come on.
And he's 45 years old.
Okay. You know, nowadays people don't retire at age 60. Everybody boxing at 55. Man, this is crazy. Money make you put your life on the line.
Okay. Let's transition to rap. You know I had to ask the question. Give me your top 5 greatest rappers of all time and why, briefly.
Okay, I would. I'm gonna say Rakim.
Number 1?
Yeah.
Okay.
I'm gonna say Rakim number 1. Okay. And as far as complexity of rhyme scheme, and when you make a poem, how complex it is, and your cadence, and your rhythm, and your syncopation, and all that stuff. Eminem is king of that. Period. No other rapper in the history of rap has made rhymes as complex that I have heard. It might be a lot of underground cats, so we talking about complexity.
Exactly.
You know what I'm saying?
You guys are hearing this from a rapper himself, so like, put some respect on him.
You know, and it's the race and war and this and that, and he did all that stuff get in it, but I mean, the dude ain't no joke. But I'll say Rakim, And then my number 2, I would have to say Coogee Rap.
Okay.
Number 3, I would say KRS-One.
Okay.
Number 4, I would say DOC.
Okay.
And number 5, I like Pharoah Monk.
Pharoah Monk. I thought you were gonna say Ice Cube.
Well, I like Ice Cube because I wouldn't. I don't know. I think I lean a little bit more towards people who really got the lyricism.
Mm-hmm.
The lyricism. Now, if you talked about the most influential, then I would say Ice Cube. Because he's witty on the words that he say. Yeah. He really ain't known as some bullet lyricist stuff out of his mouth, but he always say cool stuff.
Yeah.
So he's very influential, but I just like the other rappers I mentioned as far as what I think the great ones are.
Interesting list. You know what I noticed too though, like with rap, it's just like nobody. We're kind of biased though, because like if you think of it, your favorite rapper is who you think the GOAT is. Just look at us. Like my mom's favorite rapper is Tupac. She think he the GOAT. My dad's favorite rapper Rakim. He think he the GOAT. My favorite rapper Eminem. I think he the GOAT. So it's kind of like a little bit of bias, but as you go down the list, I feel like it's you get a little more. Try to be a little bit more unbiased, I say. But what do you think on that?
Well, I think that we would all agree that each and every one of our favorites, each and every one of them are incredible rappers. Mm-hmm. Nobody would say, "Oh man," you'd be like, "Yeah, Rakim, he cool, but I don't think he's the best." And she'd be like, "Well, I like Tupac, but I don't think it." So I think everybody could acknowledge that everybody's favorites are extraordinary rappers. You know what I'm saying? And everybody's gonna have their own, favorite things, but I look at complexity of rhyme scheme and wordplay and tone of the voice, and I look at all that kind of stuff like that.
Yes,
record sales and all that kind of stuff. I don't care. You can sell 30 million photos of cow dung. It don't mean it's nothing. You just sold it.
True. Yeah. Now this next question, I don't know if you want to answer. It's a little controversial, but obviously the biggest topic that's going on in the world right now, obviously, who was it? The Roe versus Wade, how they banned abortion in 13 different states, not in Nevada yet. So what's your thoughts on that? Obviously, it's like, do you think abortion is wrong or right? Do you think that another thing too, obviously, like should it be male voters or should it be straight female?
I think whenever you're trying to figure out if something is right or wrong, you gotta weigh it against something. It has to be on a scale. And if it tilts that way, then it's right. Or tilts this way, then it's wrong. You got to have a point of reference. The problem is everybody's point of reference is different, depending on what your moral background is, or your spiritual guidance or history or whatever you study. I weigh everything against what the Bible says. The King James Version. It's other versions you can read, but I stick on that King James Version. And what the Bible says, and it says, you're not supposed to fornicate and have do adultery and all these different sexual things that people are doing, and then they get pregnant. But what about the people who are raped?
Yeah, that's a good point.
Or they got some kind of medical reason or something. I think in those situations, abortion should take place. If a woman is raped, some kind of trauma, some incest, some abuse, or some kind of situation that is not good, is very traumatizing, whatever the situation is.
Agreed.
I think that abortion should be now. Just because I don't want to take care of this human being that's in me, but you the one that would open your legs up and have sex. You and the person that you was with, you partook. You knew God said don't do it, but you did it. Like we all have done it, and that's why whatever we do has repercussions.
Mm-hmm.
You know, so
We all got a conscience.
Abortion to me is not your parachute out of I can just live a sinful life.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I won't have protection, or I do have protection, but you know what I'm saying? You got to take some kind of responsibility for yourself. So in a life and death situation where the mother is in danger or some kind of rape or something like that, I believe that abortion should go forth, but in other circumstances, no.
Okay. And also, I don't know if you touched on it, their voters. So you think with people like in the Supreme Court and stuff like that, who's voting on whether or not to get banned, you think it should be a male or a female? Because people say it shouldn't be male because they can't get pregnant, so they shouldn't say, what I do with my body or whatever. What's your thoughts on that?
Yeah, and I don't know how to grow a chicken biologically like a farmer do, but I know how to eat one. So I don't have to know all the facts of something to be able to discern between, what's right and wrong. Mm-hmm. Just like some women can weigh on things that got male issues, mm-hmm. and you're not a man. You always have a point of reference, you know what I'm saying? You don't have to know something so, intimately and closely to be able to come up with a right decision, on what's right and wrong with something.
Right. So before we head out, obviously, anything you want to say as far as like anything you have coming out, promoting, YouTube channel, music, anything like that?
Hey, I like to say that I'm proud of you, man.
Appreciate that. Man,
you got hops. I seen the video the other day. Like really, when you first started
got
off,
it from you.
You was kind of timid, like when you was in junior high. Like I'm watching you in 6th and 7th grade. I'm like, man, where the hustle at? Yeah. Now I'm watching you on video, and I'm like, ooh, the hustle. He up there, like boom, like how you not afraid to go up and boom.
Yes, sir.
You know what I'm saying? So the athleticism, your artistry of your podcast and everything you're doing, your knowledge of the Bible and your faith, your being musically inclined and being in the marching band and playing the clarinet and knowing about time signature and notes and how to read. And a lot of people probably don't know that about you. But
yes, sir.
You well-rounded and dope, man. And I mean that in a good way. And
appreciate that.
You stay out of trouble. You're a positive cat. I like to say that. Yeah. It's called Seeds, Branches, and Fruit. That's the YouTube channel.
Go subscribe right now.
Seeds, Branches, and Fruit. Check it out.
Yes, sir. All right, y'all. That wraps it up for this podcast. Obviously, if you liked it, hit the like button, subscribe. It'll be on all platforms soon, including Apple Music, Spotify, all that. I want to get it about probably like 2 more episodes out, get to around 10, and then we'll release all 10 of them. But yeah, man, we'll see you guys next episode.